Now that I'm a little older, I want to compile a list of things that I learned at university that I use nearly every single day, and things that I'm very pleased with learning. And as well as a list of regrets, things that I wish I learned, or maybe things that I learned and I just didn't think was important and tossed aside. I learned 4 things in music school at McNeese that I still use on a daily basis. The first of which is music theory. Now, music theory is the building blocks for how music works, and it is a description of how music works. It offers you ways to discern where the music is going, and probably more importantly, it offers you a common shared language to discuss music with other musicians very quickly. There are a few people who believe that music theory stifles creativity, but I don't believe this is necessarily true. Music theory only stifles creativity if you think that every piece of music is going to be graded by a music theory professor. Music in the real world is significantly more complex than what music theory can provide. But what music theory does teach you is generally what would make a piece of music that generally sounds good. And it also offers that common shared language to be able to describe music to other people so that we can, in practices and rehearsals, or even talking about creating new music, discuss the music with a high level of precision. So music theory, yes, does share a set of rules. Think of them more as guidelines for how music should generally sound. But be honest, you should feel free to explore outside the boundaries of what music theory says, and you'll find that it'll provide a much richer experience. But music theory absolutely is one of the most important things that I learned in university, and I use it daily. Well, music theory is the foundation for the next skill, which is arrangement. I like to think that I became a pretty good arranger, and it was a very important skill for me because every school I've worked at has been a small school. Now, if you've worked at a small school or if you went to a small school, you'll realize that small schools have a problem. They don't have very many people. And so, because they don't have very many people, then the kinds of ensembles you end up with can often be very mixed with all kinds of instrumentation you would not expect. For example, the very first job I ever got at a school, and was a band director, my first class had 1 flute, 1 clarinet, 6 trumpets, 4 alto saxophones, a trombone, and 5 percussionists. Another school happened to have 4 clarinets, 4 violins, 6 flutes, and 1 percussionist. And one of the last times I had a band class, what had happened in the school was the school introduced a new elective. And this new elective was so exciting that all the people who traditionally had been choosing to be in band class went to this new elective to see what it was like. And so one year I ended up with 1 flute, 1 clarinet, 1 violin, and 1 percussionist, and all 4 of them beginners. And so with all of these very strange instrumentations, I did not want to be limited to the kinds of music that would fit this. Truthfully, I don't think there is music that fits any of this. And if you were just to pick music off the shelf and give them the basic parts, well, you're going to miss a lot of parts that are super important. This is where arrangement comes in, and the joy of arranging. You get to look at the music and kind of distill it into its basic and fundamental pieces, the blocks that are absolutely necessary to create the music and to keep it going. Then once you kind of get all of this music into the various blocks, you can decide who's going to play it, how they're going to play it. And so with arrangement, you have the opportunity to really play anything. You are not limited to stuff you buy. You're not limited to a budget. You're not limited to what is inside the filing cabinet at the time. You're only limited by your imagination and by your ability to arrange. Now, in my time, I've made arrangements of all kinds of music that are in the public domain. So pieces like Arirang, First Suite in E flat, Herr unser Herrscher from St. John's Passion by Bach, and Shepherd's Hay, to name a few. I've also arranged a fair amount of music that is under copyright, but I'm going to keep that list to myself. Arranging music has been a big joy for me, and I am very thankful for learning arranging in university. I want to share finally one of the most important lessons I learned in university, and it had nothing to do with music at all. I remember I was in, I want to say, band literature or some class like that. And my professor, I had submitted an assignment and I had gotten a very bad grade on it. In fact, probably one of the lowest grades I had ever received on any assignment ever in my life. And I remember showing up to my professor's office and I thought I was gonna tell him straight what I thought about his class and about that particular assignment. And besides letting me know that he did have the ability to eject me from music school, he did want to say something very important that really changed my life, and that was that I needed to learn how to play the game. Now, what he meant when he said you need to learn how to play the game is that I need to discover what people's expectations of me are, and I need to lean into those expectations. This, to me, was mind-blowing, because actually, up until that point in my life, I had no idea what anybody expected of me, and I had no idea that you could discover ahead of time what some of these expectations might be. And so he showed me the syllabus and said this is exactly what he wanted to see from me, and all I had to do was reformat my paper and it would be moved from an F to an A very quickly. I want to say I'm very thankful that he had very clear expectations of what I should be doing. Not every teacher does, but the fact that I learned that there are expectations that people have and that these expectations can be discovered was a game changer for me. I had no idea how much of my life was messed up beforehand because of not paying attention to this one very small detail that yes, people have expectations, and yes, you can find it out if you talk to them or if you know where to look. And so just this idea that I needed to learn to play the game was one of the most important things I learned in music school that I still use regularly today, discovering what people actually expect of me and following along with it is been a major life changer for me that has helped in all sorts of areas of my life. And these really are the things that I learned in music school that I just absolutely use every day. I'm so thankful that I did learn them in music school. The following video will be the list of my regrets, things that I did not learn in music school or things that I did learn but I just didn't take seriously. So please go on to the following video to see what I wish I would have taken more seriously. And thank you for watching.